This is Theater Talk Live, and we're live on Facebook and Agape Theater Project. And this is the first show. And you know what? We have technical issues that we'll have to work out. I can't play your videos. So we're just gonna talk, and then when I put it the replay, I'm gonna add the videos on there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And my co-host is Michelle Saunders. Introduce yourself, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
So we want to talk about your beginnings and where you got where you are now in the entertainment industry, and I'm so proud of both of you. You know what I mean? Having both of you come from Durham, and now one is in Atlanta and one is in Los Angeles and doing well. So let's start with Angela. Tell us what you're doing right now, Angela. What you're involved in, some of the shows.
Right now, I have a show that is broadcasting on the Comedy Central website as well as YouTube. It is called Robbie, and it is a show centered around an overzealous church basketball league coach who finds out as soon as the series starts that he has a 10-year-old son that he didn't know about. And I play a character by the name of Sugar Stevens, who owns a very successful line of ice cream shops throughout the South. And the lead guy, Robbie, and I kind of, we meet under some extremely funny circumstances.
All right, Michelle.
Do you have any, like suggestions to how to get started? Maybe like Cliff Notes for those who are watching.
So the Cliff Notes would be to make sure that you are getting training, and that training can look like a myriad of things. That training might be getting training in college. That training may be getting training with an experienced acting coach. That training may be working with students on student film projects. That training could look like getting involved with plays in both the community as well as church. As long as you are exercising your acting muscles, those are ways to get started. Now, it depends on whether or not you want to pursue a career in film and television or eventually, or just theater, but you definitely want to have the fundamentals in terms of the skills of acting. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you educate yourself about the business, because it's called show business for a reason.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
Steve,
once you left, let's say when you left North Carolina, what was your experience? What was your first experience like?
Well, I will say that I was already acting when I was in North Carolina. I was doing both professional theater as well as film and television. However, while at one time in the late 90s and early 2000s, the film and television market was very strong in North Carolina due to the film incentive bill that just did not get passed. At one point in North Carolina, they began to lose all of their projects. So I left North Carolina with a foundation. At the same time, though, when I left at a time when the audition process was just beginning to change. And what I mean by that was prior to about 2008, 2007, almost all auditions started with actors going to a casting director's office and auditioning in person. And about, eight, I remember beginning to do my first, what we call self-tapes, where the audition was videotaped, and then if there was a callback, that callback was often in person. So leaving North Carolina, one of my biggest hurdles was really getting myself acclimated to the self-tape aspect of auditioning, because it was totally different from auditioning in person. And that had really nothing to do with leaving North Carolina. It was just that was beginning to happen at that time. So that was one of the first things. I already had a reel. I was already acting, so I had a reel. I was already a member of the Screen Actors Guild, the Actors Union. So those were the things that I had working for me. But for me personally, that transition of really learning the skill set of auditioning in person, what we call booking the room, and then really getting skilled at this self-tape audition, that was probably the first biggest hurdle that I had to overcome.
Let's bring Stephen into this. Oh, Stephen, I'm
Yes,
so
sir.
proud of you, man. He's one of my former students at North Carolina Central University. Talk about when your beginnings now, how you got into this business.
Man, I started acting pretty young, just doing like church plays and things like that. But it wasn't until I got to North Carolina Central University and I became a theater major that things really started coming into full play for me. Just being on the stage and performing, and again exercising that tool. Just becoming better at your craft on a daily basis. From acting 1 to acting 3, it was a fun journey. And then funny story, I never even thought about pursuing it as a career when I was graduating from college. I was like, yeah, got a degree. Let me go get a job. and somehow within like 2 years, I was just like, yeah, now I'm not happy. And I just started pursuing it full-fledged. And that was 9 years ago. Just started going after it, and it led me from Atlanta to New York to Los Angeles.
Before you left, one of the biggest things I remember was Joe Crack.
Okay, yeah.
You blew it up with Joe Crack.
Okay, yeah, Joe Crack was that was an interesting project. And it was a lot of fun as well. And it was a very informative play, and that was one of the main reasons I loved doing it. It was an anti-gang, anti-drug outreach organization that put on this play, to prevent youth from doing drugs and joining gangs, and just to help them make better decisions. And it was very crafty. Didn't say one word the entire show, which I thought was kind of genius. And it was just to keep people's attention, to keep kids' attention, because their attention span is short. And it was genius he put together. And I will say that was such a physical exercise, because again, there was no dialogue coming from me. It was all body work. That was probably one of the biggest tools when it came to using my body in my work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle?
So would you say that how can I put it? You have any philosophy when it comes to acting that you hold on to? Yeah, like something that you hold on to show, this is who I am. Like,
I try to approach my work unapologetically. So I live by a code of no validation, and I get into a lot of tongue-tied arguments with some of my peers about this, but I really don't work for validation. When I show up to work, I want to bring this character to life. I have one job as an actor, and that's to tell the story. If this character is an ugly, dark character, and I decide I'm going to take on this role, then I have to be that ugly, dark character. It just has to be as gritty and as dirty and as far as I can take it. I want you to hate me, but I don't want the validation of it, if that makes sense. I don't want somebody, I hate when people say, oh, I made you this great actor. I kind of hate when that kind of happens, or, when people think it's just a role or something that took you into that. But yeah, I don't like validation. I really don't. I really like, as Angela said, she said, I like to go in and book the room. So until they give me some type of direction, especially with those self-tapes and even in-person auditions, until they give me direction, it's mine. I can walk in this room and do whatever I want unapologetically. But then if you can't take direction, then you're going to get in some trouble. so you got to be able to take direction at the same time.
Right.
But yeah.
So Angela, tell us about when you were sitting there in Queen Sugar and you was, that's a great scene. Talk about some of the things you've been doing.
Wow, Queen Sugar almost seems like a lifetime ago. I think it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. That was actually a great experience. Unfortunately, I did not get to meet Oprah or Ava DuVernay because they were overseas working on a project. They were working on a film project overseas at that time. So neither one of them were on set that day. And it was also the beginning of that season. So everybody was still kind of just getting back into the groove of being on set. And you can tell what that feels like as opposed to the middle of a season. If you're on an episodic, to it's the end of the season, and either everyone is sad that it's about to go, or either everyone is just looking forward to I'm so ready to be done with these people. But there was definitely that fresh beginning of the season energy when I worked on Queen Sugar.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Is any advice you'd like to give young actors in getting into, because you're in Atlanta, And Steve, you're in Los Angeles, and I know when you both got there, you know, you had to go through a process. So do you have any advice for young actors?
Advice for young actors, I would say one, you want to find out who's in your five. And I'm about to date myself, but T-Mobile had a commercial maybe about 10, 12 years ago that was really popular. It was a series of commercials. And so, you know, right now with cell phones, you know, you have free long distance. You don't have to wait till after 9 o'clock when your free minutes kick in. You don't have to wait till the weekend. You know, you don't have all of that. But at one time, it was not that long ago. And it wasn't like this was in the, 1990s, but there was a time when T-Mobile had this program where if you had 5 people that you called the most, all of those calls were free to those 5 people. And so I like to use that analogy because in those commercials, two of the featured actors, actually athletes, were Charles Barkley and Dwayne Wade. And so there was this ongoing thing about, D Wade being in Charles Barkley's 5, that you're 5. And so I think as an actor, you need those 5 people in your circle. And so some of those 5 people, it may be the individuals that you tape with the most, that you really feel comfortable with, that you have a good working relationship with, because again, right now, self-tapes rule. I've often been told that we were only doing them in the Southeast market, but now they're doing self-tapes more in New York and in LA. And with what's going on with the current pandemic, nobody is trying to do auditions in person, not even callbacks. Callbacks are being done via Zoom. And even before the pandemic, I did have a couple of callbacks via Skype, particularly if I was dealing with a project that was lensing outside of the Southeast and the director and producers were not able to be in the room. Sometimes those callbacks were on Skype. But number one, finding out who's in your 5. Number 2, definitely making sure that you understand the business. I said that before, but it's really important because I think that this business is one because there is not a definitive way to get in. If you're a doctor, if you're wanting to be a doctor, you go to college, then you go to medical school, and then you have your residency. And then, with those credentials, your grades and how well you've done in residency, you can go out and either start your own practice or get hired somewhere. That's not how acting works. You could be in college and be studying for years before you get even a quote unquote break or a big break. Number one. Number 2, even if you get a job, you're not going to college or you've done some education, you get a job, that job may be 2 weeks on a film. And then that's it. Now you have to get another job. And so you're constantly in that mode of getting more and more employment. So developing your 5, understanding the business, knowing the importance of networking. When I tell you, it's not just who you know, but who knows you, that makes a big difference in this business. There are so many times that there have been projects that either I didn't audition for, not because I knew the person, but because the person knew me or knew of me. And so that makes a big difference as well. The acting entertainment industry is extremely small. You think that because you haven't made a name for yourself yet, if you say X, Y, Z, it doesn't matter. No. And lastly, remembering that the internet is permanent. I when I was in high school, we didn't have Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram, but understanding what you are putting out there and knowing that screenshots are real, screen saves are real, and that stuff can be shared anywhere. And it definitely can have an impact on your career in entertainment, particularly for young actors though, because
Right.
I realize it's a way of communication and it's something that we all use. Most people use, particularly in entertainment, but you got to know how to use it in the right way.
Right. Steve?
Man, Angela says something that is very key to know about this industry, and it is a very small industry. It may seem big, but it's very small. I have been in probably about 30 different projects since I've been in Los Angeles, and I have not been on one set where I didn't know somebody from another set, from the cameraman to a gaffer to the makeup artist to somebody. I've literally gotten on set and was like, oh wait, where I know you from? And they're like putting on my mic and they're like, oh yeah, we worked on this other show on this. So it's a very small industry and people talk. It's again, you want to be careful of how you're treating people. So I usually tell young actors to be kind, be a student to your craft and also be kind, because you really never know who you're talking to. And Samart Williams is probably my greatest example of not knowing who I'm talking to. I sat in his class and had no idea who Samart Williams was. And now, even to this day, I watch shows and I see his name pop up all the time. I'm like, yo, Uncle Sam, that's crazy.
Yeah, Martin.
So I always tell him to be, to be kind, respect your craft and respect your journey. A lot of people want it now. If you got it all now, you would not know what to do with it. You'd lose it within a year and you'd be done. So respect the journey, take the time, it's steps to the madness, you know what I mean? Because it can get crazy. The industry can be pretty hectic and all over the place from self-tapes. I mean, you can get something in the morning, you might have your whole day set up and then something comes and be like, oh, we need this by 2 o'clock. And you had plans, and then it's a 6-page audition. It's like, oh wait, I gotta study, do the self-tape, get this edited, sent to you, so just be kind, respect the journey, and just be humble, really, and enjoy yourself, man, because it is a lot of fun. Once you get in and you really get the ball rolling, it is a lot of fun,
Yeah.
So with both of you working on various projects, who will be a good director to work with?
You
I'm gonna let you go first because I've been talking first the whole time.
No.
Give me more time to think.
I'm in Los Angeles, but I'm still from the South Angeles. You know what I'm saying? Ladies always first. For me, honestly, Rob Hardy is a director I'm really looking forward to working with. He directed Stomp the Yard and all kinds of other stuff. Him and Will Packer came up together. And Rob Hardy actually gave me my first opportunity in the film industry as a featured extra in Three Can Play That Game. And I've really been looking forward to working with Rob. Ava DuVernay, would love to work with Ava. Man, it's so many great directors too, man. Numa Perrier, who I just did Jezebel, that's on Netflix with. I'm looking forward to working with her again very soon. She's a great director to work with. But yeah, this is a couple of my few.
So you've already listed some that you've already worked with in your future endeavors.
Yeah. And like I said, I was a featured extra in Three Can Play That Game. So it's not really, as a featured extra, you don't really work with directors a lot of time. You work with a second AD or maybe even the first, but when you're a principal actor, like you literally get to kind of really chop it up with the director. And that's that's what I love. I love when you get those experiences because then you can you get a bigger grip on their vision, and then of course, as an actor, you're delivering lines, you're, delivering key pieces to a story. So, it's important to deliver the way they need you to deliver.
Right.
So I love when you get to have those real interactions and have that actual personal connection, whether it be good or bad, because I've had some situations where it's like, I don't really like this director. He's kind of rude, yeah. So, and then there's some people where it's like, yo, I don't want to leave set. Can we shoot another scene? Can we just make another scene? So it just, yeah, man. I mean, it kind of goes in and out when working with people, man. I get really excited about some directors. But yeah, I think I forgot your question, low key, but yeah.
No, you're good. You answered the question.
Yeah. Let's go to Angela.
Yes.
Let's see. Definitely would love to work more directly with Ava DuVernay. Even though I was on Queen Sugar, she didn't direct the episode that I was in. Tina Mabry, who has directed on Queen Sugar, but she made a splash onto this to the major scene with a feature that she self-financed called Mississippi Damned, and they actually filmed it in North Carolina. So she is a director that I look forward to working with in the future. Also, Casey Lemons, who directed Harriet and Eve's Bayou.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to work with her. Yeah, Casey Lemons would definitely love to work with her. Wow. I've taken a workshop with Rob Hardy, so I would echo definitely getting an opportunity to work with him. He definitely has a unique eye, and probably some upcoming directors that we don't know yet, but I think there's a lot of talent coming to the forefront really soon. I've worked with some student directors in the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm just waiting to see how they're going to explode on the scene.
You know,
Has either one of you ever thought about becoming a director once you've, done all that fulfilled your desires? Have you ever thought about taking it to the next step and said, hey, I want to direct one day?
I've actually. Oh, go ahead. No, Angela, go ahead.
I was gonna let you. Well, I actually have directed. I was directing theater before I was even heavily involved acting in front of the camera. But I directed a short film a couple of years ago. We are still in post production.
Yeah.
Boy, when they're self financed, it's real interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so this wasn't my project. When I say it wasn't my project, I'm not on the money side. So I'm for hire, just like everyone else, just like the actors, just like the editors and the special effects. And so principal photography is done. But the major thing that we need to wrap up this film is special effects. And that is one of the things that I think that the producer is still raising money for. I also directed an episode of a web series. We did have a small premiere at a film festival in Atlanta, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And as quiet as it's kept, I actually did study film directing while I was in school. I didn't do anything with it for a long time, just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to pursue the acting because I also majored in performance. But I've been really thinking about how I want to build my eye and my voice as a director. So I've started already doing that.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
So both of y'all kind of modest, okay? Because both of y'all got like 2.5 to 3 pages on IMDb, okay? A lot of stuff. When I just went down, I just started scrolling. Angela, come on now. Love Thy Neighbor, Atlanta, Sleepy Hollow, Queen Sugar, Rigor Mortis, Payoff, Residence, and you, Stephen, look, the way you look tonight, he watches over me, Story, Alan, The Keepers, The Last Ones. I can go on. You guys, don't be so modest. Tell the audience and everybody else what it's like to be in this industry and to be doing your craft and to be doing what you love doing. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot of fun. And even to answer Michelle's question, I am a director. I'm a lot of things. I'm a first AD. I'm a second AD.
Okay.
I've just gotten into gaffing, which is basically like lighting sets.
Okay.
I've directed 2 films and a reality show. I've DP'd Mama D's reality show, if you all caught that. But I've been a casting director, and that's another reason I say to make sure artists are being kind to people, because again, you never know who you're talking to. And I've been in rooms with people who have been like, oh no, I worked with them on this other project. That is not somebody you want on your set. And I'm like, wow, and they had it booked. They were booked. Mm-hmm. And then somebody walked in and was like, no, this is not a good choice. And I mean, you'd be surprised, like the industry, again, is very small. So again, you want to be kind. You don't want to curse out the sound guy, or like or the props manager because something wasn't working right. You want to be kind and understand and show up for work prepared.
Right.
I will say this. That was probably one of the big. I shot about 9 films with a director because I cursed out his entire cast my very first day on set. And, it was mind blowing. I came in the industry and I was very hungry, very humble. And I drove from New York City to Atlanta to shoot this film. And I actually didn't even have any lines in this scene, but I was there. But it was about 20 people in this scene, and it was a big scene. And I sat there for about 2 hours listening to people complain. Oh man, he called us here at 4:00. Oh man, it's 5:30. We ain't doing it. And I'm like, yo, like this is an industry of hurry up and wait. Like I show up for set 7 a.m. I might not go on actually even see the set until 4:00. It just depends. But nonetheless, they complain. And then when it was time, when the director got everybody in their places and wanted to run through the lines, they did not know their lines, and I was livid.
Oh wow.
And we went around this room and we got everybody's just wait, no, your part. Wait, where's the script? And I'm like, wait, how was y'all complaining? Y'all don't know your lines. And we got to the two little boys, and this is what actually set me off. There was two little boys in the scene, 9 years old, 9 and 7 years old. We got to their line, and they were
just like
and
that.
I lost it. I flipped. I was like, y'all not letting these kids outshine y'all. And I flipped, and the director, I had to go to and apologize to him because I was like, I'm so sorry. And he said, no, this is something I deal with very often with a lot of people who just want to do something. And this is when Atlanta was a very fresh industry at the time, and you were actually getting paid. A lot of people in the beginning didn't even have, they were deferring payment like crazy. Like, no, they were weekly paying people for showing up to set. And I was like, yo, like, and it's crazy because I don't see 90% of that cast working at all.
So with that situation, I don't mean to cut you off. So with that situation, do you think, like, what was your thought? Like, man, I'm not gonna make it, or this can hurt me later on.
Never.
Or did you feel like, I'm gonna stand up and say, hey, it's wrong at the end of the day?
You talking about in that situation?
In that situation. Oh
yeah, no, I definitely had to say something because I was being disrespected. With my love for this craft, I felt disrespected. The fact that you can basically show up half-assed, not prepared, and then sit there and talk junk about a director who hired you. You're actually getting paid, and you have the audacity. Yeah, I was upset. Like, nah, like I felt disrespected as somebody who loves this art and who dedicates a lot of time to this craft. Like, nah, like I hate when people just come in and think just because I'm cute, I can just show up and everything's gonna be okay. No, because there's a lot that goes into a set. There's a lot that goes into pre-production. And a lot of people don't see that, and they think they can just show up and just half-ass it, and that just does not work for this industry at all. Like, your career is going to be very short if you don't prepare.
Got you. So, Miss Angela, have you had an experience like that where, you were on set and it was a little unpleasant or it was very challenging?
Let me think about it. Nothing comes to mind on set right now, but I did have a theater experience that was not so great, where the director at the 11th hour decided he wanted to be in the production and took someone's role who had been rehearsing for it for over a month. And it was not a pleasant experience because we all felt bad for this individual. There's a lot more. There's a little bit of backstory, but yeah, when we found he just took this person's role and the money was a little funny. And we actually just kind of had to, as a cast, say, okay, he pays us now, this moment, or we don't go on. Because I think we had a show that night and we should have been paid. This was a traveling production. We should have been paid before we traveled. We didn't get it. I was like, yeah, we just need to be like, look, you won't have a show. I don't know where you're going to get it, but you got to pay me right now. And that's what many of us did, because we knew that once you do the show, that's it. You don't know when you're going to get that money. And, money being funny, most of the time on a union project, in terms of being, film and television, you don't have that issue. And I did say most of the time. Most of the time, you don't have the issue. People do pay late, but most of the time you get your money. But when you have something that's either indie or it's non-union, all bets are off. I mean, you may never get your money. It is what it is. So that goes back to the business side.
Both y'all AFTRA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Stephen, I've been telling this story, and you came back to North Carolina Central University and you gave a talk to my students, and one boy raised his hand. You said, are there any questions? He raised his hand. He said, yeah, where you get that hat from? I was like, all the way back from Los Angeles, who's from North Carolina Central University in theater, and you asked him, where do you get that hat from? Talk to me, man. Talk to me. What's going on with some of these young students today?
I mean, it's honestly, it's just a matter of lack of direction. And I mean, for me, I probably wasn't attractive to him in any shape, form, or fashion. Like, even this industry might not even be attracted to him. So, for someone like that, they're not going to be interested. Like he might be more into fashion. That's why I wanted to know where I got my hat from. So for me, it's kind of hard, and I've had to pull back because I just became a father, and
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm almost 9 months in, and I'm in the 8th month now, and I started putting my child in the industry, because I mean it's very lucrative for babies, very lucrative for babies. But at the same time, I was kind of glad the pandemic happened a little bit to slow me down, because I was like, man, I'm about to literally pawning my kid off to everywhere, JC Penney, everybody. And I was like, wait, let me.
No, not JC Penney's.
Yeah, no.
Well, I don't mean like that. I was just throwing out a name, but at the end of the day, you gotta be ready for this industry, because it can chew you up and spit you right out. And it's not for everybody. So you do definitely got to have some tough skin, because I've had a lot of friends who were in the industry and they're no longer in the industry, or they came here to LA and next thing you know, all they did was party. So you got to have a certain kind of hat on and a certain kind of focus, and know exactly what you want, because if you don't know what you want, then you're just kind of running around aimlessly. Knowing what you want is very important.
And I want to bring this up, Angela. I'm going to bring this up, right?
I don't know what it is, but go ahead.
yeah, me and you, 2003, in the cast of Dance on Ritter's Row.
Yeah.
Little theater. I was Randolph and you was Annie. And talk about the experience back then.
So that play was magical. First of all, Stephen, you were just talking about Sam Art Williams. And so this was a Sam Art Williams play. It was my first time getting a chance to do one of his plays. And I love Sam Art Williams' work. I relate to it so much. Sam is a North Carolina native, and he writes stories about small towns in North Carolina. And that's where I grew up. So when I got that script, I just, those women in that show, they were my grandmother's friends. I knew every single woman in that show. So, getting an opportunity to do that play was incredible. The script was hilarious. It was funny. I was talking to another actor recently who was in that play, Charles Streeter. He played Newly Benson. We were talking about one night when, as actors, we got the giggles on stage, and it was like, okay, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And so literally, because there was this scene where this guy was trying to raise somebody from the dead, like he was, like Lazarus rise. And it was that night, I kind of broke character. And so, we all had to figure out, how do we get it together? And I remember there was a piano in the scene, and I literally just went over and sat on the piano and just put my head down so I could recoup it and then, get back in the scene. But oh my gosh, that was a fun play. At that time, I don't know if you remember this, Ken, but that play was the highest grossing non-musical in Raleigh Little Theater's history by the time we finished. I mean, I don't know that was 2003.
Every night.
Yeah. It was really, really a successful run. It was a good show. We had tons of publicity. I work because I dabble in PR. I don't really tell a lot of people that I do, but I dabble in PR. And I remember Sarah, who worked at the Raleigh Little Theater at that time, she was like, we've never gotten this much publicity for a show. But, we had radio interviews and all kind of outreach, because also this was a play about an African-American community. And so the African-American community at that time wasn't always used to going to Raleigh Little Theater to see shows. And so we wanted to make sure that the community that the show showcased actually showed up in the seats in the theater. So it was a blast. The one thing that I hate is I did not know that they were going to sell that dress that I wore, that little red dress. And when I found out that not only were they going to sell it, but it had already sold, I was like, really? Y'all didn't come to me first? I mean, like the dress was designed for my body, and you sold it. But that was a fun project. As a matter of fact, interesting story, and I think I just happened to have it here. There was artwork that was created for the flyer for that play. I fell in love with that painting. It was the first original painting I'd ever bought. I fell in love with it so much. I went to the artist. This was like a week into the play. We were still in rehearsals, and I said, I want this painting. And he was like, well, you can buy it, but you can't have it just yet because it has to stay in the theater until after the show is over. And so I bought it before anyone even knew it was for sale. And a year later, it became the cover of my book, my first
All
book.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
so I do carry the Dance on Widow's Row with me quite a bit, and the
Great.
original hangs over my fireplace.
Right. That's great. Michelle?
So let's talk about the business side for a little bit. I know that, you know, you both of you have went to school and you have worked in your craft, but a lot of times, so I work at a university and I deal with artists all the time. And especially on the music side, they will go get it, you know, go to school, um, perfect their craft. However, they didn't get a lot when it comes to the business side, whether it's the theater, whether it's dance, music. They didn't know the ins and outs. How do you feel about your experience on the business side? Do you feel like you had to take a step and learn this as you go, or you needed to take a pause, you know, pause for a moment to figure out what is it that you need to learn so you won't be misguided?
I learned as I went. Yeah, I learned as I went, but I also sought out information. You know, because I mean, there's a lot of things. You know, agent. You need to know the difference between an agent and a manager. You know, people are like,
Right.
oh, I need an agent, or I got a manager. I don't have an agent. It's, you know, an agent can negotiate your contracts. A manager can't. You know, so it's like it's like even like it's like, wait, what? So it's just like simple things you gotta learn, and then when to even hire a PR person. When to um man, how to orchestrate your social media, your branding. How do people find you? I mean, there's so many different pieces that's involved, and also knowing who you are within the industry. Because again, there's a lot of pieces involved. And it's hard to say just right off my head like what all the pieces are, but reading your contracts. I don't care if you got an agent, manager, social worker, I don't know who you got. You personally need to read your contract.
Mhm.
People sometimes they just go straight to the money part. How much am I making? You need to read the entire contract. And I'm guilty. I was very guilty of that in the beginning of not reading. I was just signing on. Oh, this is all I got to do to get in the show. Let me sign it. And I'm guilty of doing that in the very beginning of my career. Like I said, if somebody came back and was like, "Hey, you owe us for being in our show," they could probably be right because I never read those contracts. You know, and I think that's very important that you also, because nobody is going to work for you harder than you.
Sure.
Mhm.
And a lot of people come in, they want agents, they want managers, but they're not even pursuing it themselves. Like they're pursuing an agent and manager, but they're not pursuing the craft. They're not pursuing the work. They're not taking classes. They're not learning. And it's like, yo, like you're actually going backwards in a sense. Like you, sure, you can pursue that, but also pursue the work. And because even how I have two agents. I have a New York and an LA agent, and both of them kind of came to me. I found them working. One of them saw me at a show and was like, yo, who's representing you? And I was like, nobody. And that's how I ended up in her office in New York, in the Lucky Agency. And then here in LA, they actually reached out to me through my profile on LA Casting, where I was submitting myself. So it just, I always tell people like, yo, pursue the craft and know why you want the industry, know why you want to be in this industry. You know, if it's a fame and fortune, like you really gotta love this. I cannot, if that's your drive, then so be it. But a lot of times that's not gonna cut it. It's not a strong enough why to get you to where you want to be. You know, I genuinely just love storytelling. Honestly, it just comes with a very good payoff financially. Like that's just the honest to God truth, because I was acting in Atlanta for free. And Carl Ford, who's the son of Susan Batson, saw me and was like, yo, like you need to be on a higher level. And that's what really set my journey off. And that's when I started learning all the business pieces, you know, and there's little tricks. And I even give this one. When I show up to auditions, I wear the same exact thing that's in my headshot, you know, and it's a matter of them seeing me over and over and over again. There's a psychology involved with working the business of acting. You know, I believe in the law of attraction. I'm a heavy believer in the law of attraction. I think that has a lot to do with the business. Like, I seek out and I mentally manifest people who are in my industry and where I want to go. And the friends I have 10 years ago, I no longer have. Like, it's a whole new different set of people simply because of the pursuit of what I'm after. So when it comes to the business, like, you really just gotta, I mean, take your time and learn. Like, again, respect the process. You know, it does not happen overnight. You know, Denzel Washington took 20 years.
Yeah.
So what would be two things that you would give as advice to build your brand? So for their students that are saying, hey, well, I don't want to do, you know, theater ed, I want to pursue this, but I want to build my brand. One of the things that, you know, we've talked about is that a lot of times our students, they, again, don't have the marketing side of building their brand, their name, who they are, what they represent. So with you, what would be the two advice that you would give them?
Well, everything that I associate with is in regards to my industry. Even and I make it easy for people to find me. If you type in my name in Google, everything is Stephen Barrington, from Twitter to Instagram to Facebook to Tumblr. Like, everything is literally, like, you want to be easy to find. And when you meet people and somebody, and even in this day and era with social media, and somebody says, oh, well, how can I find you? You don't want to be like, oh, well, my name is Toring King _ 365. And it's like, wait, what? You know what I mean? So it's just little things you want to be conscious of in building your brand. Like, what is your brand? Who is your brand? Like, what is the face of your brand? So, you know, I think that's very important in associating yourself with the direction you want to go, as well as making yourself easy and accessible to find.
And Angela is the queen of social media. Tell us, Angela. I mean, you all over. You click, you see Angela here. She's there. She's promoting this. She's on a talk show circuit. She's got a book. You talk to us now. Come on.
About, did you mean like to answer Michelle?
How you become relevant? And yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, it was just a question of, you know, what advice would you give for, you know, students that are watching that will allow them to build their brands?
Okay.
Yeah.
One is, I would, if you have anything that is on tape, meaning a monologue, a scene from a play that you were in, student film, whatever you may have, I would send that along with a headshot or a nice selfie, you know, not duck lip selfie, but just a picture. And I would send that out to 5 people that you know and trust and say, hey, what type of roles would you see me playing? Because that's exactly what a casting director is going to do. A casting director is going to look at your headshot. Especially if they don't know you and they've never seen your work, the first way you're going to come in the door is they're going to see your headshot and they're going to say, oh, she could be a cop. Oh, he could be a security guard. Oh, he could be an attorney. And those are those co-star roles that you get in the beginning of your career: the cop, the nurse, the doctor, the attorney, the mom, the best friend, the athlete, depending upon how, you know, young you are, what your physical build is. So you want to, that's one of the things that you want to build in the beginning, knowing what that brand is. Because even though most actors, you know, sometimes we think our skills are like, oh, that I can play anything. I can play a tough girl, like the girl said in Hollywood Shuffle, or, you know, I could be this, I could be that. At the end of the day, casting directors, by large, they're going to see you as certain things. And so you want to know, you want to have an idea what people see you as, and then start to build your brand accordingly. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't ever be able to go outside of that box. That doesn't mean that you're going to be typecast, but knowing, at least having a foundation on where to start is key. Because if you don't know that, I remember I had a one-on-one cast session, a very valuable one-on-one session with a casting director. And I remember asking her, like, well, what kind of roles do you see me playing? And she's like, well, that's for you to know. And I was like, whoa, okay, then shots fired. So you really want to know, just based on what you present physically, what types of roles are you going to likely be in? You know, trust and believe, there's always exceptions. Again, it doesn't mean that you're just going to be typecast and that, you know, you will only be seen in this, but you got to know where you start. You know, some people who have, I would say, strong features, for example, may not be cast often as a nurse because we tend to think of nurses as nurturing. So, if you have very strong features, that may not work for you. If you are a guy and you're like, I don't know, 6'5", people are going to look at you as a security guard, as a detective, as an FBI role. As long as you're not extremely, extremely thin, that's just the way it is. So number one, getting together with people that you know and trust, and just kind of seeing when they see a nice picture of you, what types of roles do they see you playing? That's the first thing. And then I would echo what Steven said, in terms of making sure as much as possible that your name can be consistent on all social medias. And I do say as much as possible because I have a very common name. And so I am, I was trying to get Angela Ray. And by the time I got on the social media train, it was Angela Ray 1924, Angela Ray 2010. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I decided, y'all can be Angela Ray, but I am the Angela Ray. And so that's how I started with my Facebook, my Twitter, as well as my Instagram is the Angela Ray. And I finally got to YouTube and there was already a the Angela Ray and I was hot with her because I'm like, boo boo, you are not the Angela Ray, because I am, because I got it on all the other ones. So because of the platform that YouTube is, I said, well, hold up, I want to be seen. So you're just going to be Angela Ray TV here. But, as much as possible, you do want to be as consistent as you can, because even with your name, if you're like, the Angela Ray host, on Facebook, but then on Instagram, I am Angela Ray on the TV, it gets to be confusing. It really does. And then lastly, if you do not already have your name.com or .tv or .net, that you want to scoop that up as soon as possible. I have a niece who is now, she's an adult, but as soon as I saw the importance of owning your domain, I literally registered her and I pay for it every year. She hasn't done anything with it ever, but every year, it's almost like a birthday gift. Every year I renew it so that when she is ready to do whatever that may be, she has it. So you want to scoop that up. And I'll share this story and then I'll wrap up. Years ago, this was probably early 2000s. My second agent I ever had was talking about websites. So one of the websites that I have that has all of my acting coaching, that's just for anybody who may be interested in acting coaching, it's mahoganydime.com. I was building a whole brand around Mahogany Dime. And then one day I heard this voice that said, register angelaray.com. And I didn't know why. So I didn't do anything with it. But literally over the period of about a month or so, I just kept hearing this voice that said, register angelaray.com. And I literally had this conversation with myself like, well, what for? It didn't even make sense to me, but I did it. And when I did it, I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with it? I didn't know. So then I had no clue. So what I did was I had angelaray.com mirror mahoganydime.com. So if you typed in angelaray.com, it took you to mahoganydime.com. Boom. Literally less than 6 months later, my agent came to me and said, yeah, we're getting a lot of casting directors. They're requesting websites from actors. And this lets you know how long ago this was, because everyone has a website now. But he was like, so if you guys have a website, let me know and I'll add that to your profile. Guess who had angelaray.com? Then I knew what I was supposed to do with it. Exactly. So I was obedient to that voice. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, gosh, what if I hadn't listened? Because I didn't know at the time how common my name was. So there's so many of us out there, but I listened, and like I've never let it go. I've maintained the .com. And then a few years ago, I was just curious if .net was available. I was like, clearly one of y'all other Angela Ray has .net. Yeah, clearly you take that one, and they didn't. So I said, okay, well, I'll take that too. And I was doing a branding session with someone about 3 or 4 years ago, and she was like, well, I'm sure you have Angela Ray TV. And I was like, no, but I went home and scooped that up as well. And so now that I have my talk show, that is the home for my talk show.
I'm gonna have to do that because I do have KenHinton.com. And there's a lot of Kenneth Hintons in this area. I think it's like 17 Kenneth Hintons, But let's move it on because time is running. Let's talk about the situation that's going on right now in Los Angeles and in Atlanta with George Floyd's death and COVID-19. So go ahead, Steve. What's going on?
Well, LA is still somewhat shut down. I mean, a lot of essential businesses are still open, but a lot of them have also closed as well because of looting and rioting. I tried to go to CBS yesterday and they was boarded up.
So what
Shut
part
down.
of LA are you in?
I live in the dead center of Los Angeles. I'm about 4 miles south of Hollywood.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm right in the dead center of Hollywood. I mean, of Los Angeles. And I mean, it's marches every day, man. It's a lot of protesting happening. But they just ended our curfew, so things are a lot better now because things are getting a little. I mean, a lot of looting and rioting going on, and you know, I can't be. I'm not mad. I'm not upset with anybody who's doing anything. To be honest with you, because
we see it on TV.
Yeah, there's definitely some serious change that needs to be taken into account. And if that's what has to be done in order for people to realize it has to be changed, then they go a match.
Atlanta?
Oh, Atlanta has been off the chain.
Right. I've been seeing that.
Ooh, that first night, I was like, y'all creeping up close to where I live because they left downtown and went up to the Buckhead area. And, we're looting in the mall in Phipps Plaza. And, I feel like a lot of the looting has stopped, and there's definitely a lot of focused protest. There's been some peaceful protests. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms actually was out with protesters recently. So there's definitely has been a shift, in terms of COVID. Our industry, the entertainment industry, is pretty much shut down. I'm gonna say pretty much because I know, like, when everything shut down, or when I feel everything shut down, when they told me there was not going to be any March Madness, I was like, hold up, something is going on, because we don't cancel March Madness.
That's right.
And so that's when I saw that, I was like, oh, we got, Houston, we have a problem. And during that time, there were still maybe a couple of indie projects that I was aware of that were shooting, but by and large, we're not right now. I do know that both LA, California, the state, as well as Georgia, they have released guidelines for getting back to business, specifically for the entertainment industry. Our industry is one that is so intimate because we share space, because, that's unless you just have a scene where your enemies or something, you're not in close proximity, but there's hair, there's someone touching your hair to do your hair, there's someone touching your face to do your makeup, there's catering, there's craft services. And so I know that there have been extended guidelines, or very specific guidelines that have been released on how you go back to set safely. But what I don't think, and don't quote me on this, as of today, I don't know if all of our unions, being SAG-AFTRA, I see all of the unions have signed off on exactly what we will be doing moving forward. Because I do remember getting an email about a week ago saying, no, you're not, if you're SAG, you're not accepting any contracts right now, because we haven't finished the negotiating process. So I do look forward to getting back to work. I had some really nice stuff on the horizon in March that I was excited about. Don't know when. well, we don't, honestly, we don't know. There's a lot we won't know until we're back in it, because number one, I was up for a pilot. I'd just gone into a director's session for a recurring role with a pilot. I don't even know if that pilot is going to shoot now, because they're at the beginning stages of a show. So will that pilot go? I don't know. I had another audition for another recurring role for a show that's already established, and they were already in production. From a marketing and or a money standpoint, it may make more sense to go ahead and finish that show, because with these new guidelines, it's going to be a lot more expensive to run a set than it was before. Number one, they're talking about staggering your times to get on set, staggering meals, with people doing makeup. Makeup is having a makeup kit. It's going to be so much more expensive. From what I'm reading, they're not going to be able to share, makeup in the same way that they were before. And of course, PPE is going to be needed in so many different ways on set. I actually saw something that there was a suggestion that, like, the grips and gaffers and the PAs, that they might use them as extras, so you don't have to have even more people on set. So it's going to be very interesting, prayerfully in the next couple of months. I do know that there have been some preliminary dates that are put out there for some shows, but again, nothing is decided yet, because it's not my understanding that the unions have agreed on exactly how we go back to work safely yet. And so when that happens, we'll have a better idea of what the industry is going to feel like in a COVID-19 world.
Right.
It definitely caught the industry off guard. And
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I started off with a very good year. You know, I had 2 films with very big roles drop on Netflix, and IMDb rating going crazy. And then they was like, and shut everything down. And even when it got shut down, you know, everybody wasn't sure how it was going to go. So I think people were still preparing for work in a sense. So I was still getting calls and, you know, auditions. And then, finally it was like, nah, maybe next year. And it's like, next year. And then to see all these different guidelines that they're looking at going after, it's like, man, it's going to be interesting to see how the industry comes back after this. But I really do think personally that COVID is being stretched for a bigger objective, which is the whole vaccine thing, with all honesty, because flu season is way worse than this. So I'm not exactly sure what and then it's even like, oh, you can be 6 feet away from me, but if you're within 5 feet, you can get sick, but I can still hand you your food from Grubhub and you'll be fine. Like, I don't know. It's like so much stuff. Like, you can still order stuff from Amazon, but like, you know, it's so many things. It's just like, I was born, you know, a day, but not yesterday, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and even with all these protests, it's like people should be dropping like flies now, right? What's
That's
happening?
right. That's what I was thinking. All these millions of people
they all
out
up
there.
on each other up in there. So
They all up on it, and some got masks and some don't have masks.
So I don't know, man. I really think it's a bigger objective as far as the whole vaccination thing goes, which I'm gonna oppose hugely as far as that goes. But I can't wait to get back to work. That's really all I've been thinking about.
I meant to ask y'all this too, real quick. Who's your favorite actors?
Oh, I have a list. I mean, it's, you know, I can start with Viola Davis and Regina King, Regina King and Angela Bassett and Meryl Streep, and Octavia Spencer. You know, those are some of my tops.
Yeah.
I love their work. You know, I really think about Regina King and her body of work, and how for a long time she had, I mean, this woman had been kicking it for years.
227.
Right. Had been, you know, she had played opposite some of the biggest names in entertainment, you know, Cuba Gooding Jr., Chris Rock, Will Smith, and she had never even gotten an award. I remember seeing one of the first awards she received, and she was like, hold up, y'all got to give me my time, because this is my first time up here. But now really on a roll now, and even stepping behind the scenes and taking up directing, you know, those 5 are definitely some of my all-time favorite actresses.
Okay.
Stephen?
Me? Oh man, let's see. Natalie Portman is one of my favorite actresses. I love Will Smith for his work ethic. Bad
Boys 2 I watched the other day. I mean,
I listen to Will a lot, just a lot of his interviews a lot, because he gives a lot of insight just on life, as well as and I would listen to Red Table Talk as well. I love Jada. Jada's a great actress too. But yeah, man, the industry, I love a lot of people, man. I love The Rock. I love Kevin Hart. Because I think what a lot of people don't realize is within the journey, I like where they are because of the journey. Even with Regina King, like, they've been in this industry so long, flying so long, but it's like now it's like, oh, they're these big stars. It's like, yo, like, they've been here and they've been this star the whole time. You know what I mean? It was just a matter of opportunity and respecting the process, you know, because what if Kevin Hart quit after Soul Plane? You know, and that was Soul Plane was almost 20 years ago. A lot of people don't realize that. And he still didn't even go anywhere really with his career until another, like, 12 years later. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is always respect the process. So, but Will Smith is hands down my favorite actor of all time. Him and Paul Robeson. Yeah,
and give me Denzel Washington and Freeman.
I love Denzel. I got a love-hate relationship with Denzel Washington.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it's not even anything bad. It's simply from comparison. Throughout my career, I've always been compared to Denzel Washington. It's not a
Oh,
bad
okay.
comparison,
There
but
you go.
I also stand on the no validation. So I'm like, no, I'm Stephen Barrington. I'm not Denzel Washington. So, but I love Denzel nonetheless.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Michelle, you want to help us wrap this up?
Before we wrap it up, I have a question for Stephen.
Go ahead.
Stephen, I know our paths crossed in Atlanta. I know I interviewed you, but I don't remember exactly how they crossed. Like I posted that interview recently and I tagged you in it. So I remember us doing it, but I have no idea how we came to do that interview. I couldn't remember.
I don't remember how exactly we ended up there, but I remember being happy to come. I remember our connection with North Carolina, and I have no idea how exactly we even met. But yeah, that was about 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Seven, somewhere between 7 and 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that.
That's great, man. You know,
Here it is. This is how small the industry is. This is exactly how small the industry is.
And the two of you didn't even know each other until that time, correct?
Right. We didn't know each other. The play that you were in, I knew people. I'd never seen the play, but I knew people in the right. Tim Jackson has been a longtime friend of mine. So I knew people in the play, but I didn't know you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember the interview. We talked about North Carolina in the interview, but I was really trying to remember the other day, like, how did I end up doing that interview with him? I couldn't remember. I had no clue.
Well, tell people about your talk show real quick too.
Oh, so I host an online talk show called The Angela Ray Show, all about building that brand. Right now, we are broadcasting weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And this coming week, I will launch a 5-part series on athletes, both what they do with their platforms and what they think about, what's going on right now with coming back to play, because the NBA is preparing to come back and have an abbreviated season. We don't know what football season is going to look like and how that's going to impact these individual lives, because LeBron James, he's going to be okay, he's a multimillionaire, but for some of those athletes who they need to come back, what is this going to look like? Does the risk outweigh the cons, pros outweighing the cons? So yeah, it's going to be a great series. And tomorrow night I kick off that series with Mr. Brainard Brown, he's known as Bobby Brown, former player for the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, well, we'll be watching that. So any final thoughts, either one of y'all, final thoughts for aspiring actors?
Pursue your dreams wholeheartedly. As long as you're alive, you're undefeated. So whatever happens, if you feel like you failed, it's not over as long as you're alive. Watch Jezebel and All Day and the Night on Netflix.
Oh, that's right. I know that's right. Okay, so what am I gonna pub? Definitely check out Robbie. It's only Robbie. Yeah, it's a comedy and it's on Comedy Central, so you can check it out on multiple platforms. But definitely the Comedy Central YouTube as well as the Comedy Central website. Again, I play Sugar Stevens, one of the most fun characters I've had playing. Also coming up a little bit later this summer, we don't know exactly when, pending what's going on with COVID. I have a film called Through Her Eyes, and it is loosely based on a true story inspired by true events of a young lady who helped desegregate a school in Marion, Alabama. And Marion is right outside of Selma. Funny, quick story with that. We actually went to shoot in both Marion and Selma like 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, Ken, I think that was when I was supposed to come and do the awards, the Agape Awards, and I was still in Selma shooting. And if you can, we don't know what happened, but for some reason, all of that footage was corrupted, like all of it. The guy sent off that hard drive to multiple places to restore it, couldn't be restored. So then we reshot it in Atlanta. And so now we are ready for release. And another North Carolina connection to that story is Pastor Shirley Caesar was one of the producers on the project once we went back in to shoot. So
and I'm hoping to interview her too.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. So that will be coming out again sometime late summer, so be on the lookout for that. And I would just like to offer a piece of advice from one of my books called Rays of Motivation. Ray of Motivation number 55 states that champions do not lack fear, they lack stagnation. So do it scared and keep moving.
I love it. Well, listen, we wanted to thank everybody for joining us. And I want to surprise Michelle because next week, our guest is going to be Natasha Williams from New York.
Oh, nice.
Andre Meekins from Winston-Salem, both artists, and they will be our guests. And on the 21st, we're going to take off because it's Father's Day, of course. And then on the 28th, we have April Parker Jones.